Commander Tork Vellon had served as chief diplomat at the Galactic Council's Earth observation station for 12 standard cycles, longer than any other non-human in recorded history. This was widely considered the diplomatic equivalent of surviving 12 consecutive rounds in the notorious Blargen acid pits. The assignment came with hazard pay, mandatory therapy, and a custom medal that simply read "Still Alive." Tork stood at the viewport, his purple skin reflecting the soft blue glow of Earth below. His four eyes, the main pair, focused on the planet. The secondary pair, scanning the incoming alerts, blinked in uneven patterns of distress. "Commander, we've lost all transmissions from Earth," announced Lieutenant Zrek, her tentacles dancing nervously across the communication console. Complete silence across all channels. No digital signals, no radio waves, no response to our hails. Tork's exoskeleton stiffened. "How long?" 23 minutes, sir." "Have you tried the emergency protocols?" "All 728 of them, sir." "Nothing." "Nothing." The command center fell silent. Too silent. The constant background chatter of human broadcasts, the cooking shows, the political arguments, the bizarre mating rituals disguised as reality entertainment had been their constant companion for decades. Its absence felt wrong, like the sudden stop of a life support system. Tork turned to face his crew. All 30 members of 8 different species were staring at him, their diverse biological fear responses creating a symphony of distress: feathers flattening, scales whitening, antennae vibrating, and in the case of Ensign Glob, spontaneous protective mucus production. "Initiate Protocol Omega," Tork said quietly. First Officer Krill's upper mandibles clicked in alarm. "Sir, that's the "I know exactly what it is, Krill. Full evacuation. Now." "But Commander," protested Zrek, "regulations require at least 1 hour of silence before." Tork slammed all 4 of his hands onto the console. "Does anyone in this room need a reminder of Galactic Rule number 1? If Earth goes silent, run. Not walk briskly. Not wait patiently. Run." The scramble for the evacuation pods was immediate and undignified. As alarms blared throughout the station, Tork accessed the emergency broadcast system, his voice transmitting to every Galactic Council outpost within 50 light years. "Attention all diplomatic, scientific, and commercial vessels. This is Commander Tork Vellon of Earth Observation Station Alpha. We have confirmed Earth silence event. I repeat, Earth silence event. Implement immediate withdrawal from Sol system. This is not a drill." As he rushed toward his own escape pod, Tork passed the galactic history display, a monument to the reason behind Rule number 1. Holographic images cycled through humanity's greatest hits, their first stumbling steps into interstellar politics, the infamous Mars incident, where a human mining colony accidentally weaponized coffee, the diplomatic crisis caused by humanity introducing the concept of pranks to the humorless Vroon collective. And of course, Nan, the Titan catastrophe when Earth had gone silent for precisely 43 minutes before unleashing what they casually termed a minor terraforming mishap that transformed Saturn's largest moon into a temporary second sun. As his pod launched away from the station, Tork watched the blue marble of Earth through his viewport. The planet looked so peaceful from a distance. They always did right before the chaos began. "May the void have mercy on the galaxy," he whispered. "The humans are up to something again." Admiral Moraz of the Galactic Council's Crisis Response Division was having a perfectly pleasant day until the emergency transmission arrived. His magnificent cranial crest, the pride of his Avarian heritage, deflated visibly as Commander Vellon's report played for the 3rd time. "Earth silence event," he muttered, running a taloned hand over his face. "Of course. Just when I was 2 days from retirement." His assistant, a nervous Malorian named Plex, poked his gelatinous head through the doorway. "Sir, the Council has convened an emergency session. They're requesting your immediate presence." 3 hours later, Admiral Moraz stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council's Emergency Committee, trying not to visibly molt from stress. "Let me understand this correctly," said Councillor Thrix, her crystalline form glittering with irritation. "You propose to send a team toward the Silent Earth? The exact opposite direction of where Galactic Rule number 1 suggests we should go." "Intelligence gathering is essential, Counselor," Moraz replied. We need to know what they're planning before we can prepare appropriate countermeasures. Who would even volunteer for such a mission? Asked another counselor. That's the thing about volunteering, Moraz said with a thin smile. It's entirely optional until it isn't. Which is how, 12 hours later, anthropologist Dex Luminal found himself aboard the scout ship Inevitable Regret, staring in horror at his new assignment briefing. This is my first field mission, he protested, his luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. I've only studied humans theoretically. My thesis was on their fictional apocalypse scenarios, not on actual potential apocalypses they might cause. Admiral Moraz, who would be directing the mission from the safety of a command ship stationed at the edge of the solar system, merely shrugged. Consider it an accelerated career opportunity. More like a career termination, muttered Chief Engineer Grax, a burly Taurian whose 4 arms were currently occupied with ritual good luck charms from 16 different religions. The crew of 7 represented the Council's most expendable experts, Dex the fresh-faced academic, Grax the engineer who'd once accidentally insulted the Grand Potentate's mother, Lieutenant Nix, a security officer with a perfect record of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, Dr. Tessa, a medical officer specializing in creative trauma responses, Pilot Officer Loom, whose navigational skills were matched only by her pessimism, and communications specialist Orby, who claimed to speak 17 human languages, but had yet to master indoor voice in any of them. As the ship approached Earth's orbit, the mood aboard could charitably be described as preemptively posthumous. I've updated my will, announced Loom from the pilot's seat. If we somehow survive this, I'm quitting to pursue my dream of professional hibernation. Dex nervously reviewed his human cultural notes. Remember, everyone, no sudden movements. No baring of teeth unless you're absolutely certain it's appropriate. And whatever you do not mention their contradictory planetary classification systems. Anything else? Asked Nix, checking the charge on his completely inadequate stun baton. Yes, said Dex, his skin turning a pale shade of terror. If any human offers you something called tequila, run faster than you've ever run before. The Inevitable Regret entered Earth's atmosphere with all stealth systems engaged, heading toward the source of the communication blackout, a region the humans called North America. As they descended through clouds, the crew braced for anything: massive weapons, experimental technology, or possibly just the smoldering remains of yet another accidental self-inflicted catastrophe that humans had somehow survived. What they didn't expect was the perfectly ordinary cityscape that appeared below them. That's anticlimactic, said Grax, peering at the scanners. Everything looks intact. No signs of unusual energy signatures, no massive destruction. That's how they get you, whispered Orby darkly. The moment you let your guard down, bam. Suddenly they're showing you pictures of their larval offspring and asking about your weekend plans. The Inevitable Regret landed in a secluded area near the source of the communications blackout, a nondescript building with the unhelpful label Northeastern Regional Server Facility. Contain alert status, ordered Dex, who as the human expert had been reluctantly pushed into leadership position. Remember your training. My training said to avoid humans at all costs, muttered Nix. Your better training? Clarified Dex. Approaching the facility with weapons holstered but anxiety unholstered, the team was startled when a side door suddenly banged open. A human male emerged, wearing blue coveralls and an expression of profound irritation. He was carrying a large toolbox and muttering to himself. When he spotted the aliens, he did not scream, flee, or attack, all responses the team had prepared for. Instead, he simply stopped, sighed deeply, and said, "Let me guess. You're here about the outage." Dex stepped forward, attempting the human casual friendly stance he'd practiced. "Greetings, Earth Dweller. We come in peace and significant trepidation. I am anthropologist Dex Luminal of the Galactic Council." The human took a long sip from a container labeled coffee. "The only reason I haven't committed arson yet. Jack Cooper, network maintenance. And yeah, the whole system's down. Some genius executive decided to streamline our backup protocols, and then another genius spilled an entire venti caramel macchiato on the main server bank. We've been offline for about..." He checked a device on his wrist. 4 hours now. The alien team exchanged confused glances. "That's it?" asked Grax. "A beverage-related accident?" And corporate cost-cutting, added Jack helpfully. Never underestimate the destructive power of quarterly profit projections. Dex's skin cycled through colors of confusion. But we detected a complete communications blackout. All Earth transmissions ceased simultaneously. Jack shrugged. Yeah, that tracks. This facility handles about 40% of the continent's internet traffic. When it went down, it triggered cascading failures across the grid. Classic domino effect. So there's no experimental weapon? No reality-altering technology being tested? No imminent threat to galactic stability? Dex's voice carried the distinctive tone of someone whose academic career was imploding in real time. Jack snorted. Unless you count my supervisor's management style as a weapon of mass destruction, no. As the aliens processed this anticlimactic revelation, Dr. Vessa stepped forward. Human Jack, you seem remarkably unconcerned about both the communications failure and the presence of extraterrestrial visitors. Lady, I work tech support. Last month I had to explain to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company that his computer wouldn't turn on because it wasn't plugged in. Nothing surprises me anymore. Jack gestured toward the facility. Besides, you guys have been dropping by for decades. There was a whole government briefing thing. I've got the informational pamphlet in my locker. Dex suddenly felt very foolish. So the silence was just an accident? Welcome to Earth, Jack said, spreading his arms, where our most common explanation for anything is somebody screwed up. As they followed Jack inside the facility, Dex couldn't help remembering the historical events that had led to Galactic Rule number 1. The Mars incident, caused when a sleep-deprived engineer mistyped coordinates. The Vroon diplomatic crisis, started by a human delegate mistaking an alien emperor for the bathroom attendant. And even the infamous Titan catastrophe, triggered by 2 separate research teams using incompatible measurement systems. Not malice. Not superior technology. Just humans being chaotically, catastrophically human. And somehow that was more terrifying than any doomsday device could ever be. Within hours of the communication systems coming back online, the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps descended upon Earth like a swarm of bureaucratic locusts. The hastily organized emergency summit took place at the United Nations headquarters, where representatives from 12 planetary systems tried desperately to explain to human officials why a brief communications outage had caused interstellar panic. Commander Tork Vellon, whose evacuation pod had been intercepted and redirected back to Earth, stood at the podium looking like he'd aged several decades in one day. Distinguished Earth delegates, he began, while we acknowledge that this particular incident was benign, I must emphasize that unexpected silence from your planet creates tremendous concern throughout the galaxy. UN Secretary-General Okonkwo raised an eyebrow. Commander Vellon, is it standard galactic protocol to assume apocalyptic scenarios whenever a member world experiences technical difficulties? No, Madam Secretary, Tork replied. This protocol is unique to Earth. That seems rather discriminatory, observed the Japanese ambassador. Tork's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. With all due respect, Earth is the only planet that has accidentally altered the orbit of an asteroid, because someone converted the calculation to football fields per hamburger or whatever bizarre measurement unit you decided to use that day. That was 1 time, protested the American representative. 3 times, corrected Tork. And there was the incident with the self-replicating cleaning nanites that developed a fondness for chromium and nearly consumed mercury. They were very effective cleaners, the European Union delegate pointed out. And we did solve the problem by creating a predatory counter-swarm that now requires its own planetary reservation. As the diplomatic exchange deteriorated, a tall, impeccably dressed human observed from the sidelines, his interest visibly growing with each revelation of galactic anxiety. Maxwell Price, CEO of Price Corp Industries, was not officially part of the Earth delegation. His presence was ostensibly as a technical consultant regarding the server outage, but his attention had shifted entirely to the interstellar implications. Fascinating, he murmured to his assistant. The entire galaxy lives in fear of human unpredictability. There must be tremendous market potential in that. Meanwhile, Jack Cooper had been invited to explain the technical aspects of the outage to the assembled dignitaries. He stood uncomfortably at a side podium, tugging at the borrowed suit that was a size too small. So yeah, basically corporate headquarters decided to save $300 a month by downgrading our redundancy systems, he explained. The spilled coffee was just the final straw for an overtaxed system. Dex Luminal, now serving as cultural translator, added, for galactic context, that this would be like the Arcturian hive mind deciding to save money by removing half the safety protocols from their sun harvesting operations. That would be insane, gasped a crystalline delegate. Welcome to capitalism, Jack replied with a shrug. As the formal presentations concluded, Maxwell Price smoothly inserted himself into conversations with both human and alien officials. To the aliens, he expressed profound concern about Earth's technological vulnerabilities. To the human delegates, he whispered about defensive opportunities against clearly jumpy galactic neighbors. Think about it, he said to the U.S. Defense Secretary. They're so afraid of what we might do. They fled the entire solar system. That's leverage we're not utilizing. Jack, sipping bad coffee in a corner with Dex, watched Price work the room. That guy is trouble, he muttered. How can you tell? Asked Dex, whose research on human facial expressions was still theoretical. He's smiling with his mouth but not his eyes. He's mentioned market opportunities 12 times in the last hour. And he keeps looking at you aliens like you're walking dollar signs. Dex's skin rippled with concern. Your species is very perceptive about predatory behavior. We should be, Jack replied. We've had a lot of practice being both the predator and the prey. 3 days after the summit, Price Corp Industries announced the formation of a new division, Interstellar Security Solutions. Their slogan, because when Earth goes silent, the galaxy trembles, appeared on billboards worldwide overnight. This is deeply concerning, Dex said, pacing the temporary office the Galactic Council had established in New York. Price is weaponizing galactic anxiety for profit. Jack, who had been hired as a human cultural consultant, a role that mostly involved explaining Earth idioms and why one should never accept a human's challenge to eat the worm, nodded grimly. Classic disaster capitalism. Create fear, then sell the solution. Commander Tork reviewed the marketing materials spread across the table. Orbital defense platforms, communication disruption systems, something called panic button protocols. This is essentially selling the threat of human unpredictability as a commercial product. The Council will never allow this, said Admiral Moraz, who had finally been forced to come to Earth in person. They might not have a choice, Jack pointed out. There's nothing illegal about it under Earth law. Price is just selling security systems. That's like saying there's nothing illegal about giving a toddler a plasma cannon, Tork retorted. The situation deteriorated when they discovered Price had scheduled demonstrations of his Silent Earth technology for potential buyers, both human governments and off-world interests who might pay to avoid being caught off guard by future human chaos. We need to stop the demonstration, declared Dex. Jack raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do we do that? The guy's got more security than the president. We'll need to be creative, said Dex, his skin turning the bright orange of inspiration. Fortunately, I've been studying human unpredictability for years, which is how Jack found himself driving a maintenance van toward Price Corp's demonstration facility in Nevada, with 4 aliens poorly disguised as humans crammed in the back. This plan is insane, Jack muttered as he flashed a forged ID at the security checkpoint. Precisely, replied Dex cheerfully from under a hoodie that barely concealed his luminescent skin. We're fighting human chaos with human chaos. It's symmetrically appropriate. Their infiltration went surprisingly well until Tork's fake mustache detached itself in front of a security guard. The resulting chase through the facility involved 3 accidentally triggered fire alarms. 1 server room accidentally locked down with Price's entire executive team trapped inside. A coffee machine reprogrammed by Grax to dispense beverages at Venusian temperature, approximately hot enough to melt standard plastics. And Jack discovering his unexpected talent for improvisational lying. Yes, we're the interstellar compliance inspectors, he told a confused group of technicians while Dex frantically copied data from a terminal behind them. New department. Very hush-hush. We're checking for illegal gravity manipulations. That's not a thing, one technician said suspiciously. That's exactly what someone illegally manipulating gravity would say, Jack responded with all the confidence of someone who had completely stopped caring about making sense. As they raced through the facility's main testing area, Tork suddenly froze. "By the void," he whispered, staring at the massive device occupying the center of the chamber. "They built a planetary communications disruptor." "In English for the human, please?" Jack asked. Dex translated, "It's a machine designed to temporarily silence all of Earth's communications at once." Price isn't just selling the fear, he's selling demonstrations of that fear. Push a button, make Earth go quiet for a few minutes, watch the galaxy panic. "That's not just unethical," said Jack. "That's profoundly human," finished Tork with a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. "Using the galaxy's fear of your species as your primary export." As alarms blared around them, Jack had an epiphany about his species that no alien anthropologist could have articulated. Humans were simultaneously the galaxy's greatest threat and its most creative problem solvers, often cleaning up messes they themselves had created. "I know how to stop this," he said suddenly, "but you're really not going to like it." The demonstration for Price Corp's interstellar security solutions was scheduled as the corporate event of the century. Military officials from 17 nations, representatives from 9 off-world governments, and every major media outlet on Earth gathered in the Nevada desert facility. Maxwell Price stood on a raised platform beside a comically large red button, delivering his pitch with practiced charisma. "For too long, Earth has been seen as the galactic wild card," he announced. "Today we transform that perception from liability into asset. With our selective silence technology, we can ensure that Earth communicates on its own terms when we want, how we want, and with whom we want." In the control room overlooking the demonstration floor, Jack and the alien team watched through the glass. "Now," Jack whispered. Dex activated the emergency broadcast system they had hijacked, his voice suddenly booming through every speaker in the facility. "Attention all visitors. This is a Galactic Council emergency alert. What you are witnessing is an unauthorized attempt to manipulate interstellar relations. The technology demonstrated today violates 17 galactic treaties and will result in immediate sanctions against all participating parties." The crowd erupted in confused murmurs as Price frantically signaled his security team. "That's our cue," said Jack, hitting the door release. He strode onto the demonstration platform with Commander Tork and Admiral Moraz flanking him in full Galactic Council regalia. "Mr. Price," Jack announced, grabbing a microphone, "your demonstration is being shut down under the authority of the Earth Galactic Joint Security Act." "There is no such act," Price hissed. "There will be in about 20 minutes. Jack replied quietly. "Your little stunt accelerated some diplomatic processes." Turning to the audience, Jack continued, "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate configuration, my name is Jack Cooper. I'm nobody important, just a maintenance guy who accidentally ended up in the middle of an interstellar incident." He gestured toward the aliens beside him. "These folks have a rule about Earth. If Earth goes silent, run. Know why? Because humans are unpredictable. We're chaotic. We spill coffee on server banks and accidentally ignite moons. We're simultaneously brilliant and idiotic, careful and careless, peaceful and dangerous." Jack pointed at Price's silence device. "This machine isn't security, it's extortion. It's taking our worst quality, our unpredictability, and weaponizing it. But here's the thing about human unpredictability. It goes both ways." He turned to Commander Tork. "Commander, would you please explain the new communication protocol?" Tork stepped forward, his diplomatic training evident in his poised address. "After this incident, the Galactic Council and Earth authorities have established new fail-safe systems. Earth will maintain constant background communication with galactic monitoring stations. Any silence will trigger graduated response protocols rather than immediate panic." In other words, Jack translated, "We're actually fixing the problem instead of exploiting it." Maxwell Price, seeing his opportunity evaporating, lunged for the demonstration button. "If I can just show you the technology in action." Jack intercepted him with a surprisingly effective tackle for someone who spent most days fixing network cables. "Yeah, that's not happening." As security personnel, both human and alien, converged on the platform, the assembled dignitaries witnessed something unprecedented: humans and aliens working in perfect, chaotic harmony to prevent an even greater chaos. "Malicious," Later, at the impromptu celebration in a dive bar near the UN headquarters, Commander Tork raised a glass containing a liquid that his biology definitely couldn't process. To constructive unpredictability, he toasted. Jack clinked his beer against Tork's glass. And to Galactic Rule number 2. I'm afraid to ask, said Admiral Moraz. X, whose research had now expanded to include Earth's celebratory customs, grinned broadly. If a human says, "Hold my beer," evacuate the sector. The laughter that followed, some understanding the joke. Others laughing simply because laughter itself was contagious, represented perhaps the first truly unified human-alien cultural moment. Jack looked around at the improbable gathering, maintenance workers and admirals, diplomats and engineers, that all species brought together by crisis and comedy, and realized that perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't technology or innovation, but the beautiful unpredictability that kept everyone on their toes. Chaos, it seemed, could be the universe's most powerful unifying force, especially when followed by a good punchline and a cold drink.